Welcome back to the Help Me Understand podcast with JK McLeod. He is reckless, he hunts, and he's all about restoring the dignity of hard work. Today he has his guest, me, Jim Hallinan. You can find me on Instagram at Jimmy Nutrition. I'm a teacher.
All right. Well, there we go. There we go. Hey, folks.
Hey.
It's JK. I figured I'd also chime in on the Help Me Understand podcast. So welcome to an episode with my friend, Jim Hallinan, better known online as Jimmy Nutrition. So if you are wondering, what is this episode going to be about and what in the world is going on? I also have the same questions.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to tell you guys something. There are certain people that when you reach out to them, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, there are certain people that when you reach out to them, they potentially will have a lot of questions about, okay, what do you want me to talk about? What's the exact structure? What do you want me to say? Any particular things that I need to make sure that I hit on and things like that. Then there are people who are the absolute opposite of that. So meet Jim, because Jim reached out to Jimmy, and I should pull up the text.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the
Let me
text.
see how close I can remember it.
Okay. Yeah.
I have to have you on the podcast.
Yeah. Pretty much. Oh, here, I found it.
Probably said sounds good.
I found it.
Or I'm in. Something like that.
I texted Jimmy. Let's see. Let me see.
It's like six
previous
texts
time,
ago, dude.
Yeah, the previous time.
Oh, you're going back.
Yeah, I'm whatever. So basically, you're putting me on blast for not texting you often. Okay, I texted you on your birthday though. So I texted you on January 31st. So I said happy birthday, and then a couple weeks later, I said, need you to come on the pod, open to anything you want to talk about. And his response was, I'm down. So there you go, folks. That is somebody, that's genuine confidence right there. Right there. Genuine confidence. All right. So now that we've pretended to do some sort of an intro, anything that you want people to know before we jump into a topic that I'm about to pull out of my right ear?
Nice. I feel like I should change my Instagram name because I don't talk about nutrition at all. And even from the beginning, I didn't talk a lot about nutrition because I was fully aware it's always more than nutrition. It's our mind behind it. And now I keep it just because that's what it is. And so many friends of mine or people I've met at conferences are like, Jimmy Nutrition.
That's just like how they know you.
Yeah. It was funny because CJ Happy Hour is his Instagram.
Man, it rings a bell, but no.
Yeah, he lives. I met him in Virginia at a conference in August, and he lives 15 minutes from me. He trains a lot of high level athletes and whatnot. But he invites me over to his house. He's like, "Hey, we're having people at whatever, just some random like party type thing in the fall." And I stop over there and I go, and he's like, he's the hype man. I don't know anybody at his house. It's all his friends and like family and stuff. And he goes, "Jimmy, motherfucking Nutrition in the house."
Everybody needs somebody like that.
I was like, dang, that felt really good. I need to introduce people like that in just a regular setting when they come to my house. So it's like this Jimmy Nutrition thing. But yeah, I don't talk about nutrition. I may have posted before if I didn't. I'm so thankful for all the accounts that do. So I don't have to. Like, I just have no interest.
Well, you've already given me my first topic because I want to peel back some layers here on the I don't really post about nutrition thing, because I'm going to counterpoint that. What are some of the different hats that you wear? So you've got different things that you do.
Yeah. So I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher 25 years. All of that was spent teaching high school. This year is the first year I'm teaching elementary school.
God bless you.
I requested that transfer because my environment was miserable. The high school students are miserable. I'm teaching seniors. They don't want to do anything, and it's just draining. So that is analogous to the environment that a lot of people are in and then complain about they can't get in shape or whatever it might be. So I changed my environment, taking a risk, not knowing, stepping out of a situation where I didn't have to think at all on a regular basis. And now I'm like, I got to figure out what games little kids play and how to handle a much busier schedule, actually planning ahead of time, using a lot of equipment, all that. I knew it would be more work. Anyway, so I'm a teacher. I am a parent. I am an online coach, and I actually own a driving school, which I have been hands off of for years, and I just got my hands back on, but I've created a situation where it works with my lifestyle where I can't commit to office hours and streamline things to make it accessible. And then I'll figure out if I'm going to keep that business open or not by the end of this year. We will see.
Okay.
So I'm busy.
There's a couple of other things that I believe you've at least dabbled in. So I'm going to say dabbled in because if they're not currently happening, then you can correct me. Co-host of the Other Side Lifestyle podcast.
Yes.
Okay. You do. I remember
great
previously.
Podcast. I don't know if you've
It's fantastic. You've had some great guests on there, like great guests.
I know.
Yep. And
there was one in particular that stood out to me. He just had this voice I couldn't get out of my head. It was so.
Yeah. Shout out Mike Milner. Fantastic.
Sultry.
That's nice. Yeah. Let's see. Also, I know you had posted before because I remember it was a riveting story about short-term rentals or something like that.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Okay. So you do that.
I had that now. I got divorced last year. We sold that property to make it, which made the financial split very easy. By selling that property, it was able to buy out of both properties.
Okay.
Because I'm still in the house. She didn't want to have the house. And now she bought her own house now. So But I did have that. Yes. Forgot about that.
I'm trying to think here. Let's see. And then also, is the apparel piece an offshoot of the Other Side Lifestyle podcast, or
it was just I wanted certain shirts for myself, and so I just started.
I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm like, I want a shirt to say this.
Yeah.
And so I just started doing that, but I never promote it. It's just a drop ship thing. If I make $2 on a shirt because somebody randomly buys one, then whatever.
Okay.
But yeah. Okay. Forgot about that too.
So the part of the reasoning for me bringing those things up and also having some space where Jim could share some of those things is because I'm on a continual, never-ending mission to provide whatever I possibly can with perspective of understanding what different things possibly play a role in where people are right now. Inky Johnson, one of the people who I quote very often, one of my absolute favorites, has this thing where he talks about, because I'm going to try to direct quote, and also if you're like the quote police, like keep driving by.
Actually,
like one of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming that where they meet someone is where they've always been. And it's so true, like so absolutely true. And that's a big part of my mission with the Help Me Understand podcast, is to take things that on the surface, you think that you know kind of what's going on, or you fill in the gaps. I call it filling in the gaps. So even with those people who do like the follow me for a day, like that sort of a thing, it's like you still are filling in gaps of what you think that person's life is like, or, oh, okay, I totally get the backstory. Like I see this dude and I'm assuming that they grew up this way and they either went through these hardships or they had these advantages, and that's totally why they're successful and I'm not, or that's totally why their life sucks and I'm an alpha, like whatever it might be. So thanks for taking the time to do that. All right, we're going to jump into this, because one of the things that you started with right off the top is that you don't really post about nutrition. You don't really talk about nutrition. Yeah.
Sometimes
directly
in my stories, but my posts themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So what first got you into perhaps the realm of coaching? Let's kind of start with that.
So I taught high school health phys ed.
Yeah.
And seeing kids struggling with body image, boys and girls. Mm-hmm. Girls for their obvious reasons of like, you're not lean enough. Guys either being overweight or being too skinny and they can't gain weight. So seeing them struggle in the exact same way that adults struggle, just kind of realizing nothing changes from high school to adulthood. People always say, I can't wait to get out of here. They just want to maybe grow up, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. If you are in an environment of people, nothing changes. There's going to be the same gossip. It's just you don't have to go into a building with hundreds of these people. But it's going to be the same drama at work, the same drama with people. Nothing changes. The same insecurities. Nothing changes as far as I'm concerned until you address the internal issues that you have. So seeing that, and then also at our school, we had advanced placement pottery. And then there's nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, we have everything. I mean, we have.
It's a thing.
Yeah. Me neither. When I found that, I was like, you got to be kidding. AP pot. I don't even know if that class exists anymore, but 9 years ago,
it doesn't after we put it on blast in this episode.
Yeah. I mean, the communications classes, like graphic design, video game design. I mean, we had everything. Wow. And there's nothing for students who wanted to go into health, fitness, nutrition, anything. So occupational therapist, physical therapist, personal trainer, whatever, registered dietitian. So in teaching 10th grade, talking to students about there should be a class on this stuff, because I would spend health class talking a lot about that kind of information because kids knew I was into it. I was one of the few gym teachers who it's like, oh, he works out.
Isn't that ironic too? What you just said, I'm one of the few gym teachers who actually works out and enjoys. Wild. Yeah.
It's wild. We got a few at our school, not many at all. Literally a few. One's like an Ironman guy. One's like a kettlebell certified dude who's super into it. Me. That's it. And a woman who runs a lot. And she takes care of herself. But anyway, too much information. So I proposed the class in nutrition and kinesiology to our principal and the head of guidance. They were like, it's great. Write the curriculum. I knew my stuff from being a personal trainer in college, but I wasn't going to write a curriculum based on what I knew from 15 years prior and just what I know with myself. So I instantly enrolled in grad school to get a master's in exercise science and sport nutrition. In those first handful of months, because courses now are pretty accelerated, 7-8 week long courses, I kind of got a base of what I want to make this curriculum about. Wrote the curriculum. Now kids enrolled in the class and I have this curriculum by September. So I just write a curriculum over the summer and start teaching it. I have no textbook. I have no material. I have to make everything, all the PowerPoints, any worksheets, test quiz. I have to make everything. What's amazing about public school, not once was I observed in this class by anybody. They just let me write a course, teach it, zero follow-up in any way, shape, or form. Thank God I was awesome at it.
Wow. And no chat GPT to work with at the time.
No chat GPT. This is like maybe 2016. In teaching that class, I know this is like a long-winded story to say how I got into coaching.
We're here.
In teaching that class, I'm telling these kids, like, nutrition coaching is a real thing. At the time, it wasn't well known. It was like nutrition coach. Yeah, like 2016, like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is something, if you really care about people and you really understand the nuances and all of this stuff, it's not just the number, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can make a business doing this. And they're just kind of looking at me. And I ended up starting Jimmy Nutrition, like 5 months after starting to teach that class. To kind of show them you can do this. I started going around the gyms, doing seminars, just saying, hey, I'm a nutrition coach. Well, I started that. I got two friends to compete with each other and test out my spreadsheet that I made, and I coached them, and they both lost a bunch of weight. And I'm like, all right, I like the system that I'm doing. Start doing seminars at places saying I'm a nutrition coach, never having had a client, but then using them as like this one client, I have like a before and after picture. Or
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it,
though. Yeah.
And then just started getting clients and doing more and more seminars. Orange Theory started to pay me to come out and do seminars.
Oh, nice.
So it was, so that's how I got into it. It was just genuinely wanting to help people get out of their own way, because there is, at that time especially, even now, there's so much information people just don't know. There's more information that people, I think, understand. Like, now people understand what macros are for the most part. They've heard of it. Yeah. Back then, like, nobody heard of macro. What?
Or even if you did, I mean, I know the case for me was the first time that you hear about it, it is under the IIFYM. Or if it fits your macros. Not going to assume everybody knows that term, but hearing about macros for the first time was 100% now what we would consider like the extreme side of if it fits your macros, which basically is, eat whatever you want as long as you fit it within your macronutrient.
Yeah. Which again, even the people that were doing that or talking about showing all these desserts, they weren't eating like that all day.
No.
Here's
the fun part. I didn't know that when I first got into macros.
So you're hitting macros with protein shakes and donuts
and Pop-Tarts, bro. I was a Pop-Tart fiend.
How many Pop-Tarts can you eat in a day and still hit macros?
I will tell you, at one point I was at about I think the highest my calories were about 4,500 a day.
So then, you got some room.
Yeah, we're talking. I remember I worked at a gym one time, or I worked at a gym at the time, and they unfortunately let me make my own like post-workout shakes with the smoothie area that they
Mhm.
had. So I had like free reign to do whatever I wanted back there. And so I would take 2 packages of Pop-Tarts, the confetti cupcake, and mix those with like some spinach and then like 3 scoops of protein powder.
I mean, that's 800 calories just in Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, well, when you're eating
Yeah.
for over 3,500 calories a day, I mean,
I mean, that's
4,500 was probably my top, but when you're eating an average of 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day, you really I really start to not really care about the quality.
well,
I'm
and
just like,
you
I
need
gotta
to
get
eat
it in.
lower. It's almost impossible to eat 4,500 calories of high
Right.
quality food.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot. I mean, I think I should have bought stock in Uncle Ben's jasmine rice at the time because it was ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was definitely more on the extreme side. I've got a question for you though. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, and I'm going to ask this question super selfishly as the parent of a daughter who's now a college freshman. So shout out because her birthday was yesterday. So she turned 19. And then Mace is 12. So he's in the 7th grade right now. And one of the things that you mentioned was being, well, this is going to sound weird, inspired by seeing kids struggle with body image. That sounds kind of weird, but that was a catalyst, let's say.
Yeah.
Can you help us understand some of the things that you were observing that were making it clear that kids were struggling with body image? So I want to go back to that because I don't know that within my like the conversations that I will have with parents, there's certain things that I pick up on, or I think that I pick up on because of my coaching experience. And especially, this, I believe, when you talk to adults and you start to really get an understanding of their backstory and a good portion of, where are these issues that are exposing themselves, or at least they're willing to talk about now in their late 30s, 40s, and beyond, you find that you can start pulling a thread and it can go back to something that typically is related to around the age range. You're talking about high school,
Yeah.
some junior high and elementary school. And so I kind of pick up on those things. And also, I don't know that the average parent actually picks up on those things unless they're like super overt.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times the person's issue is the parent. And it might be
That
the
is a
parent
fact.
telling them, like,
Gosh.
you've had enough. I'm really concerned about your weight. I just want you to be healthy. I love you. And all they're hearing is, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat.
Yeah.
And I don't want to eat this stuff in front of you because I'm going to hear a comment. So I'm going to eat it behind your back so I don't have to. And then that starts the road of eating your feelings.
Yeah.
It starts the road of food shame, body shame, everything. So I think a lot of times it's a parent that caused this stuff, especially from my experience, if they've had a sibling that did not struggle with their weight. And that sibling, and I've had that multiple times, the sibling doesn't struggle with their weight. So the parents let them eat the Pop-Tarts and the McDonald's and let them eat all that stuff because they can. So It's not about health. It's about how you look. And then for that other one, it's, I think you've had enough, or maybe try this, or maybe blah, blah, blah. Like, you never say that to my brother, so I think that can unravel a whole thing as well. But in terms of students they would flat out say their issues with their body, males and females. And then you'd see the girls, and again, boys too. Even like I'm so, I don't know, empathetic, I guess. I don't know, guys. I feel like I've become much more emotional
Okay.
over
That's
the last few years. And it's crazy. Like right now, it's crazy that I feel, oh my God. This is so weird. But like in phys ed, we had to wear a red, white, or blue shirt. You're overweight. What color shirt do you want to wear?
Anything but white.
Black. You don't want to wear a royal blue shirt when you're obese or overweight. You see the folds, you see the tucks, you see your chest hanging a certain way, all that. I'm the same way. If my body isn't as lean, there's certain shirts I'm like, I look a little titty in this. I literally will say that about myself. And I hated it. I'd see these kids and I never made them. I was like, you can wear a black shirt. I'm like, I'm not making you wear a red, white, or blue shirt because now the kid doesn't want to participate. He doesn't want to run because the jiggling. They're always pulling at their shirt. The heavy boy who's running down the shim and he's pulling.
Dude, the tug.
Yep, the tug. But it breaks my heart that other teachers wouldn't even see that. And they'd now kids grades not well just because they're not wearing a freaking red, white, or blue shirt. Let them wear a black shirt. I'm like, can we get phys ed shirts made for the kids that are black? And just say the name of the school in blue or red or whatever. So just seeing that is, to me, it's heartbreaking. You see girls who want to dress what's in style, but they're not feeling comfortable in it. They're tugging at the skirt. They're pulling at the shirt.
Yeah.
And it's like you're trying so hard to fit in by wearing those clothes, but you're not even comfortable in those clothes. And then that creates another set of issues. And then just that is what I saw. Yeah.
Man, that's well, so as a parent, I'm encouraged with being able to interact with somebody who's still active in the education field, who cares as much as you care, flat out. So I appreciate that, because you can't, I don't know, man, like as a dad, like I just try to remind myself, like, you're sending your kids to go to someone else for the majority of the day. And especially for the way that I've chosen to structure my life, those teachers are going to have more interaction with my kids than I'm going to have in the average day.
And it's crazy to think, what is it, like the 75% of the time you spend with your kids is going to be in the first 18 years?
Yeah.
Something like that, I think, is the stat. And now you take of that 75% of your life that you're going to spend with them.
Yeah.
The majority of it is not even with you.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think.
You're talking to somebody who has got the reality of that really sunk in with my daughter. Yeah, because, since she's a freshman in college, I definitely...
What's that like? Are you texting her and, hey, what's up? Or are you hanging back waiting for her to initiate because you don't want to smother her?
I am, if those are the two lanes that I have to pick which lane, I am for sure more on the hang back, subtle, I'm around,
not surprised at all,
that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And also a part of the story that I tell myself that works is because I know that she has other people who are the opposite of that. So this is where the conversation about differences between mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, different things like that. So I take those dynamics into play. So I think about this. Whatever. We expected this conversation could go 15 different directions. These are things that I think about sometimes when I'm talking to somebody who's a parent. So say if one of my clients is a parent and we're talking about some of the things that they're working through with their kids, and we have these different categories where it's they're married, or they are co-parenting, or they're widowed. And this difference between co-parenting or single parenting and only parenting, literally you're the only person that is living.
And that's what I'm seeing now.
Yeah. And then I've got a really good friend of mine that's a co-parent coach, and he was talking to me about parallel parenting, which I didn't know that was a thing. So
explain.
What's that?
Explain. What's the difference between that and co-parenting?
So
you guys are totally unified, doing everything.
Well, according to
each house exactly the same or as close to the same as possible.
Well, so according to what this person has shared with me. So again, the definition police keep on driving by. So according to the perspective that he has shared with me, co-parenting is where there's an active connection in the back and forth of working together to parent the child.
Yeah.
Parallel parenting is the other person is there and not actively involved. They're not actively getting you involved in the decisions that are happening with the child. So basically,
parallel parenting is I'm doing my thing at my house, you're doing your thing at your house.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess parallel is the word because they're not ever intersecting.
Correct.
I'm thinking you're going along together.
No.
And it's the opposite.
No. Yeah.
Maybe they changed the name.
So co-parenting, we're walking alongside each other, and occasionally we high five, we shake hands, we do things together. So there's not equal, but
parallel
there's a
parenting.
partnership.
He's at bed at 8:30 at my house. God knows when at your house. He's eating these types of food. Wow. I'm kind of almost in that situation.
Well, there's some argument. You'll get argument within. I didn't the entire subculture of like either separated or divorced parents. You'll get argument over like if there is such a thing as the difference and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And again, my perspective has been wildly influenced by a friend of mine, again, who is a co-parent coach. So when somebody is talking about parallel parenting, I've seen them like in their content too, kind of pick up on that, like in the comments, like, well, when you say parallel parenting, what are you talking about?
Why does everything need a name?
Because
why can't you just?
Because that is you have to name everything.
Hello,
keto, paleo, intermittent fasting. What?
I don't get that. It would never even cross my mind. Like it's that there's a different word for how you interact as a co-parent or whatever.
I do think some of it is.
And what classifies you as a single dad? And then I see sometimes people post like as a single dad, and I'm like, and then like another post you're realizing, oh, you're splitting time 50-50. Does that qualify you as a single dad? I don't know. It sounds like don't know. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing it 100% alone if you're the single parent. Anyway, it just doesn't cross my mind to say things like as a co-parent or as a single parent. I just be like as a dad. I mean, if there's a specific topic you're talking about that is influenced by the fact that you're divorced and or parallel parking.
I think for us, we have a bit of a different bias / perspective, and maybe it's the same thing, whatever, without getting into like super big labels. We've got a different perspective than most when it comes to marketing and understanding that you're trying to like when you say something, especially like as a coach, when you say something, you're saying it with intention and you're saying it with authenticity. The great ones are. And also you understand that there are particular things from a marketing standpoint that will get you more engagement than other things. Yeah. So
I guess I'm so out of the victim mindset that I don't even use language that could potentially it just doesn't cross my mind to say anything that potentially would be I'm a victim as a co. Like it doesn't cross my mind to talk about those things.
Let me throw this out to you.
In that public setting.
What if See, it's interesting because your assumption is like that person potentially is saying that from the standpoint of like, I'm holding on to this belief that's probably holding me back, right?
Oh, you got me.
Okay. And, I'm the perspective guy. I come up with random things. So
I'm right, but go ahead.
I dig it. So what if it's more of, I've been given the advice to really understand like who I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. And I believe that my calling is to be a fantastic coach for single dads. So I use that specific verbiage because there are certain points, and let's kind of get into this. There are certain points where it's not about the workouts, it's not about the nutrition, or let's say there's certain points where the client starts to realize. So you mean it's not like 3x10 for 6 exercises? That's not like the magic part, or it's not like I've achieved the specific macro ratio. Like, you mean it's not that? There's something deeper than that. Yeah. And so me as the person who like starts working towards the mindset things, I'm creating a hypothetical me. I really believe the people I can help the best, like I'm best served or best called to serve, are single dads.
Yeah.
So that's why I say like, hey, as a single dad, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now there's the people who totally get toxic with it. And they're like,
yeah, true.
If you're not 45 with 2 kids, 7 jobs, and been homeless
6
before,
figures,
I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and I think probably too, it's like, it's still fresh for me being in the situation I'm in. So that might be why I'm a little bit like,
totally
back off. Yeah. And even out of respect for my ex, I don't feel I'd want to talk in that way where it's, if she were to see a post and the way things are, oh, he's single, he's trying, I've just avoided it. So I do appreciate that perspective that you're saying.
Yeah. I'm still wrong, but that's okay.
Obviously.
I'm okay being wrong. Well, let's
bunch of clickbaiting, fake marketing,
basically.
whatever.
I mean, I specialize in coaching men with beards, so
I will grow mine back
just
to get on the roster.
You've got it. You've got it going on right there.
It's a little thin.
Let's talk about this this theory that I believe we align with. That at the end of the day, it's not about the piece you're trying to fix is not specifically the nutrition. It's not specifically the training. It really does come down to your mentals. I was going to say mindset, and now I'm just starting to get tired of people talking about mindset, but that's really what it comes down to.
I think there is a difference. Mindset is almost leaning more towards like willpower, as far as I'm concerned. Mindset is about, creating perspective shifts, because I do think it's important for everybody to always be shifting your perspective. Well, what's the other way to look at it? What's the other way to look at it? What's the other way to look at it, versus being so fixed mindset and, instead of growth mindset. So I think that's important. But I think when you just say mindset, you're taking out the emotional aspect that a lot of people are dealing with. So that's why I agree with you. Sometimes that word mindset, I'm like, this is more than mindset. The stuff that I'm thinking about, that I'm talking about, that I've been working on with myself, and I see other people avoiding it or other people doing that work. So yeah, I'm with you. Mindset, I think, pigeonholes it to one thing, and then people can feel like, what's wrong with me? I can't get my mind right. It's like, well, it's not just the mind. Like, you got some emotional baggage that, for lack of a better word, I shouldn't say baggage.
I just put it under mentals at this point.
That's why I'll take mentals.
Focus on your mentals. Yeah, you just shared what you did. The thought that just entered my brain is, man, have we gone so far to now mindset is becoming the next like box to check?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a clear shift, and I'm sitting there going, like, I've been talking about this shit. Like, scroll back on my Instagram, 1,000 posts. Like, that was the first stuff I was talking about. That's I don't know, but it's more and more like that. When you look at coaches' profiles, it's fitness, nutrition, and mindset.
Right.
You're seeing that stuff all the time. You're seeing more people post about it, which is good.
Yeah.
There's no, I think it's great. But then, like everything, God knows what that means for people, how that's going to be communicated to somebody. Are you really doing this kind of work, or are you just saying it?
Yeah.
There's
a question I have for you then. So I do want to take a quick moment just to shout somebody out who I think is one of the real ones, and that's Dr. Casey Jo Orvidas. I believe like she's one of the real ones when it comes to mindset work and helping coaches truly understand what that means. Because I just start to see more and more from my perspective that people hop on something and then they kind of co-opt it. And then these days, it's just really hard to tell. Even as somebody who's like in the industry, it's hard to tell sometimes, like if somebody's real about what they're doing, because you then like you kind of get into their program, or maybe you work with somebody who's done their nutrition program or their training program before, and what you find out is that like what was on the storefront isn't actually what's inside the store when you go in. It's kind of the same thing. It's just different wrapping on it. Shout out Beachbody, like repackaging, whatever it may be. I think
there's a lot of that, just even with like the customized, individualized plans, one-on-one, and I've had that experience. But yeah,
I had a horror story with somebody before who, I mean, when we first did like just a connection call, just to truly just see like, is this going to be even a fit? Something like the vibe was just off, like something was really off. And I was very specific around like, for one-on-one, I write a individualized training program. So from the ground up, even to the point where I've had other coaches be like, you are wasting so much brain space starting from the ground up. Like all you got to do is do this, swap this, and then you're good. And I'm like, I understand that. And also, whatever.
Screw you.
Yeah. I just remember just in the conversation with this person, like the vibe was just off and whatnot. And just at some point in the call, I was just like, can you just kind of help me understand? Like, I don't know. I feel like something, like maybe there's something I'm not explaining well or something. And they were just like, I've heard all this stuff before when it comes to like writing me a custom training program. And so I asked them to like kind of help me understand a little bit more. And it turned out they had worked with somebody, like a very ridiculously popular, well-known coach who legit,
what was his name again?
I'm not going there. Legit copy paste.
Well, yeah, but I just forget. I forget. I know you told me before.
Don't even copy paste. Because the way they figured this out is that the coach forgot to change the name on the program. Leading up to that, they had reached out to the coach. Like periodically, they would reach out to the coach with like, "Hey, just got a question about these particular exercises because, I had said that I wanted to focus. I'm just going to go general. I wanted to focus on shoulders and glutes, and I just noticed that this has more like quads than glutes." And so they were like, "Oh, sorry about that," and like switched a couple things.
Did they explain that the quad bone is connected to the glute bone?
This was like obvious. It was
Why
a program.
Are there so many leg extensions?
For real. That's exactly what it was. It was like everything was like heel elevated. It was leg extension. It was knee over toe. It was abduction. Like it was all that. And I think there were like 0 hip thrusts. It was like there was an RDL. Like that was it in the program because they showed me the program.
Yeah.
And then like they were like, I got hints. And then they got to the point where at one point,
hey Jessica,
they had the wrong name at the top.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, okay, you know what? Thank you for like sharing that with me because I totally see what you're saying. So I legit like did the screen share, pulled up True Coach, and I was like, let's just and I learned this from Mike, like let's just peel back the curtain. Okay. So here's Jen. And literally like on the screen was scrolling through the program and I'm like, and then here's Paige. And like what you will see is some similar exercises because I am not about to be like, okay, well, one person does like a squat.
There's going to be.
I was like, but let me walk you through a couple of reasons why I have like this person doing this first and then this other person doing it third. And then the rep range is like that sort of thing. So yeah that's just that story always sticks with me now because now when I'm talking to somebody, as part of the questions that I ask, I'll say, kind of help me understand a couple of things that you really enjoyed with someone previously and a couple of things that you felt like really could have been done better for you.
I think that's huge. I mean, I'll tell you what, that's anybody listening who's looking to hire a coach, obviously just hire JK. But if you're looking around, if they're not asking you questions like what JK is saying, that's your first red flag. They're not asking you questions like that. So like, what do you like doing? Peace out. Okay. Yeah. Glutes, shoulder. Gotcha. I know exactly what we're going to do with you. No, I'm not hiring you. Like that's.
Yeah. They're maybe you're going to change like 2 exercises and whatnot. And I will readily admit there are certain aspects where I am likely overthinking it more than I need to.
Yeah. You're like my friend Paul.
I choose to overthink.
You enjoy it.
I absolutely like that's what I'm here for. Like I love nerding out on stuff like that. So
and there's nothing wrong with having a skeleton program. You're so understand that.
That I definitely
listen. Just because there's a skeleton program, meaning like, hey, these are our base foundation movements. Everybody's going to have a core group of similar movements.
Yes,
but to have a cut and paste like that is,
dude, it was
out of control. It's like don't hire people with hundreds of thousands of followers. Maybe don't hire somebody that's brand new and 25. Find somebody who's similar to where you are in life.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I've been enjoying. I don't know if I've been doing that Inside Out program.
Yeah.
So it's a group coaching thing. And I've just been enjoying that, like digging into that stuff, that inner work, because it gets away from being told what to do.
Talk about that a little bit. Like, what does what does that look like? Because I think that's part of what I want to talk on here is people are going to say they do inner work. People are going to say they focus on mindset and all that. Like, what does that really mean? What does that look like inside of your Inside Out program? Inside Out program.
Boom. It's funny because we had somebody on our podcast once and she kept saying stuff like, you got to do the work, you got to do the inner work. And da-da-da. And I go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because I get tired of people saying things all the time and then not even be able to answer it, just like the deep work. Like what specifically?
Yeah, you read.
She had a hard time answering it, but I also realized like it was really good for her to hear that question so that she then next time she is asked, she can maybe be able to verbalize it. The first time you're asked that question, like, I don't know. So I get it, but don't so freely say phrases until you are fully embodying it and integrating it and understand it. You know what I mean?
The word salad.
Yeah.
Good old
So
word
it's
salad.
so for me, and I would hear those things all the time. For me, inside of the group, this curriculum of what we do, I'm not telling anybody anything. And I feel like part of even what made me want to put this together was hearing people like Ed Milet or all those people in that category of people.
Yeah.
Follow our 4 foundational pillars to create success: faith, family, fitness, like whatever their core values are.
Right.
And then people will sign up for that thinking, yeah, if I do this, then I'll get my life in order. And that those values maybe aren't really aligned with them. So they don't succeed in it and therefore feel even more like a failure. Because that's not really what they wanted in life, was to be maybe that structured or hardcore or whatever it is. So for me, I truly believe we all have the answers to everything inside of us. Yeah. What we should be doing, what we want to do, we have the answers for everything. And we often just walk around trying to get confirmation from other people about, what do you think I should I? It's like, you just want somebody to be like, to give you permission kind of a thing, or to support you, but so it's learning to trust your intuition and learning to trust that inner voice. And there are ways to kind of get there with the things that I have people do. First thing, discover your strengths. And there's website. And so what are your actual strengths? And going through that, you start to realize, I remember the first time I did it.
Are you talking about the Strengths Finder, like the Clifton
like
thing?
a Strength Finder?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was like humor was a strength. And I'm like, I know I'm funny, like, and it's even weird too. Like even me now being able to say something like that, I never would say. I would feel uncomfortable being confident in things that I'm good at. When people ask you like, what are you great at? I don't know, nothing. It's like, I'm a great teacher, and it feels weird to say it.
Yeah.
You're a great coach. Do you feel comfortable saying, I'm a great coach? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But until you really get to know yourself, you're not going to feel comfortable saying that. Finding your strength. So knowing that humor is a strength, it changed the way I viewed certain things. It allowed me to know when I'm using it appropriately and when I'm not, when I'm using it as a defense mechanism and when I'm not. And I've learned to use it and be able to be more serious, where years ago I'd be like, God, you don't take everything so serious. And now I'm seeing that. So, and there's other strengths as well that were in there. And then going through like discovering your values. So as we discover our values, and people might have to go through that a few times. So this is doing the work, actually sitting down and doing these things, discovering your values, and then going, all right, am I living my life in that way? So for an example, for me, it was like adventure and excitement, kind of bordering. I'm almost shifting, like, is it more freedom that I'm looking for? But really, I think it's like the adventure, excitement, having something to look forward to. I went through a period of time where I'm like, am I trying to escape my life? Like, why am I, we got to go, whatever it might be. Am I trying to escape something? And then I'm realizing, no, like, this is a value of mine. Like,
so relatable.
Yeah. Like I like adventure and excitement. So how can now I incorporate that in my everyday life? I don't need to go away to do it.
Yeah.
So that changes the way that you're living life. Reframing self-limiting beliefs. So I go through an exercise with them that they're finally realizing these are my self-limiting beliefs. And a lot of people would be like, they don't even want to admit that. Like, I'm fine. I can do anything I want. So you're not doing the work. Doing the work is literally investigating these things in your mind. What are my self-limiting beliefs? And then reframing those self-limiting beliefs. And I was just listening to somebody talking about self-limiting beliefs and, talking about almost trying to convince yourself. That wasn't the way they were phrasing it. So I'm doing it a disservice. But if you actually write down and discover your self-limiting beliefs, then I have them find evidence that is false. We all have evidence. We don't have to convince ourselves that we can do something. Like, no, I can do this. Yeah. You have plenty of evidence to show that you can do it. You've just been ignoring it. So that's part of doing the work, as far as I'm concerned. Discovering what your self-limiting beliefs are, being honest and vulnerable with yourself, reframing those self-limiting beliefs to what you can do, what you want to do, finding the evidence that those things are not true about yourself. And then there's a handful of other things that we go through, getting into like your shadow or the dark sides of you that we tend to hide from other people. And this
Right.
is terminology that I don't just throw around because, again, I'm not shadow work.
Right.
The phrase sounds weird at first.
It does.
You know, you're going, okay. But really, all that is the dark parts of yourself that you kind of hide. You know, the sun's on you. This is what you're presenting to everybody. But then there's these dark things behind you that you kind of hide. And then those things come out with the self-sabotage, with the eating and drinking and masking emotions. That's the shadow that's kind of starting to come out, because these are parts of you that were developed to protect you. And a really good book, if somebody wants to kind of start thinking about some of these types of things, is called No Bad Parts.
Okay.
And it's that it's internal family systems. It's a therapy method by Dr. Richard Schwartz. But basically that we all have these different family members internally. So maybe you ate as a young person to mask an emotion. So that version of you that does that, you created that version of you to protect yourself in that moment. And it worked. You were dealing with maybe something traumatic in your childhood. Maybe drugs and alcohol were introduced, and that helped you cope with what was going on.
Yeah.
It was a protective mechanism that you created to protect yourself, and it worked. Well, now as an adult, it's not protecting you anymore, but it's still stuck in that loop of protecting you. No, listen to me. Eat the food, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
So when you start to identify that that's not something bad in you, that's actually a really good part of you that you created to protect yourself 30 years ago. But now that version of you, let's have a conversation. How can you protect me in a different way? Or, hey, thanks, but I don't need you anymore. Like a big brother that keeps showing up to be overprotective. You're like, dude,
right.
I'm 45 years old, man. I can figure out my own problems, you know? So that type of stuff is very little bit, you know, just kind of unraveling some of those things. So that to me, and there's more things and topics, creating, you know, a vision for what you want your life to be and all that. But it's really just kind of uncovering things that are there and all these answers you start to find out that you have, and then learning to trust that.
Yeah.
That's the work as far as I'm concerned. And then the hard part is because then you start to uncover those things. And now it's like, all right, now I got to live life.
Yeah.
And life will continue to put things in your face until you learn the lesson. And once you learn the lesson, it's going to test you one more time.
Yeah.
And then when you actually do face these things and stand up for yourself, whether it's to yourself or to another person, and you finally learn that lesson, all of a sudden those things don't show up anymore. They all of a sudden don't show up. It's wild. And I've experienced it, and plenty of other people have experienced it. If you take certain things from people, I mean, I in the group, I had a woman who fired her therapist 3 weeks in. She's like, I've learned more in these 3 weeks than I did in a year and a half of therapy.
Oh, wow.
Because they're just asking questions. And like, we're doing assignments and doing work and blah, blah, blah. She ends up standing up to her mother for the first time in her adult life. She's, you know, in her mid late 30s, lives with her parents, kind of takes care of them, type of thing. Mother makes comments all the time about her body and what she's eating. And she's always struggled with her weight. She ends up standing up to her mother for the first time. Dramatically changed almost instantly the relationship. And she was sharing it in the group, how her mom reacted. I didn't know that when I was just trying to be there for you, and I had no idea. And it's like, it's stopped from this stuff that we're talking about in this group. I had a woman, traumatic upbringing, and this was in the first group, and she's been in therapy like her whole life. And when we were going through the self-limiting belief thing, she's like, I've been in therapy forever, and this is the first time I believe myself. And I was like a mess.
Ooh.
Like
Ooh.
it's wild, and it has nothing to do with me. This is stuff that I've done with myself. And then when people start to believe themselves, it's like, it's just wild, because you have the answer. I don't need to tell you, this is how you become sick. You know, you just need to ask yourself these questions, be open, vulnerable, and do the work.
So,
and it's not fun.
There's something you said that I can't allow myself to bypass. So why would you not take credit for the role that you play in that process?
I take credit for creating a space that it happened.
Okay,
I don't
so it
take
does
credit.
Have something to do with you.
Correct. Yeah. I've created a space where these people feel comfortable talking in the group, in these conversations.
Yeah. Right.
Here's the questions, and here's the resources, and here's how I've created that space. I don't, it's not about me in terms of I fix this person or I'm better than therapy. Like nothing even close to any of that. It's not a fixing anybody. It's not anything. So the point when I'm saying that is you're the one. You did it.
Yeah.
You discovered the stuff. You were vulnerable enough with yourself and with other
Yeah.
people. I take credit for creating the space for it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
all right.
I'll take that.
I wasn't going to be cool with just like not having you at least acknowledge a sliver of the role that you play with setting up an environment for people to be able to do that. And what that comes across to me as in something that, so I reached out to my clients probably about a month and a half ago, like a small handful of them who've been with me for, I think the ones that have been 3 years or more. I reached out to them because I have a small handful who've been with me for that long. My longest is like 7 or 8 years, I think, something like that. And I just said, I'm trying to work on being more clear and putting together some things about what problems I solve. The whole, like, what problems do you solve, that sort of thing. Yeah. And instead of me sitting down to do it, I was like, I'm just going to message my clients and just ask them, like, what problem do I solve for you?
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's for real. Because I'm like, why am I trying to?
For this group, I've had to ask all the people, I'm like, can you explain what you got out of it? Send me an email, a video, anything. Because I have a hard time explaining it in like a short little thing.
Yeah.
And this is, so yeah. And you'll get a few people that send the email. I'm like, come on, you were crying like every week. Send me an email with a little test. And like one guy like, it's like, it's so hard to describe, and I'm like, I get it. I know.
Like, yeah. Welcome to my struggle.
It's so weird. Anyway, go ahead.
So the reference to that was a common theme was you help people kind of sift through the BS that's out there and really try to understand what is for me and what's not for me, that sort of a thing. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that we took a moment to just kind of draw out being able to have an environment where people get to a point where they realize that they do have the answers and things like that, because the opposite of that is that you have people who set an environment and people may get some results in that environment, or they may be able to at least get a bit further, which is progress, get a bit further in the process. And then that individual, the coach, the whatever they want to call themselves, influencer, whatever, will then say like, this is all because of me. And it's just so interesting to me that we've got like, we're kind of like have like two extremes. We've got people like you, and I can relate to this. So I'm kind of like mirroring my own story where it's just like, well, no, it's kind of like the aw shucks guy. Yeah. And then you've got people on the exact opposite where it was just like, dude, all you did was unlock the door. Like, you can't take credit for the entire performance that happened inside of the auditorium. You literally unlocked the door. So I just wanted to call that out, just because I do think in environments, it's difficult, I think, for people to really just understand what authenticity actually means. Like the term like curated authenticity is what comes to mind.
It like people, it's like that whole thing too. It's like, you telling us all your dark secrets isn't authentic. It's you like drama dumping on people. Like, it's not authentic. It's weird.
It's tough. It's really tough. Something else that you mentioned, and we'll start to wrap here in just a minute. Like, something else that you mentioned that I think is really powerful is really having people find evidence either for or against. I can't remember exactly how you said it, but I wrote down like the self-limiting beliefs thing, because I think it's one thing to identify what your beliefs are, and even if you're willing to label them as self-limiting. Something that I work with people on is I have like this weird, like, some people think it's kind of sadistic side of me that's like, hey, I want to know all of like the reasons. Like, give me every excuse, like where somebody's told you you're just making excuses, and give me all of those. Whatever comes up to you, like, that's cool. Like, whether it's your situation, like I don't get help from my partner, so I can't get up and go to the gym in the morning. I'm constantly bombarded with quote unquote unhealthy choices at work. I work at Burger King, so, and I don't have money. So the only place I can, like, just whatever comes up, give me all of them. And then I'm like, okay, so since we know we have all these things, what's absolutely fantastic about this is that we know that the times that you are going to be able to work out, because that's where I start from, since that's like my primary lane is the training, while understanding the importance of sleep and nutrition.
Plus, it's showing them that they can carve out time if they want to.
Yeah.
If this is something really, then you have to show yourself that you can create time.
Yeah.
So even that is
I use that to my advantage. So when they're like, I only have 20 minutes, I'm like, fantastic. That means that you don't have any time to waste. So I don't have to, I appreciate that you only have 20 minutes. It's going to make
writing your program even easier.
I was like, that's fantastic. And sometimes they'll kind of look at me like when we're on a Zoom call and they're like, well, wait, what do you, I'm like, no, this is fantastic. They're like, yeah, but, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't ask you for the yeah, buts. Like, I am forming a program around all of the constraints that you have, even though in the back of my head, I'm like, these constraints, some of these are not actually real. It's a story you're telling yourself. Some people are like, no, I'm not used to that. I'm used to them telling me I got to change this and I got to change this. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, eventually you will need to.
There's so many layers. So many layers to that. There's so many layers to just that little thing. The stories that they tell themselves. I mean, even that, I don't have time. It's a self-limiting belief. It's an example of a self-limiting belief. Yeah. People hear self-limiting belief. It's like, oh, I don't think I can be famous. No, just that you don't have time. That's a self-limiting belief. That your spouse won't help you. Have you asked? The amount of women that I've heard say they should know. Well, you have to say something.
Like I would like to be the representative for the Clueless Husband Club. As much as I think I'm dialed in, nope. There are times where my wife is like, how could you not have known?
I was great with that
because
stuff.
I don't.
You seem overwhelmed. Let me know if you're trying to get to the gym. Let me know. I'll do whatever. Don't feel like you can't because this or that. I mean, I was on that stuff, but at the end of the day, they should know is a bullshit line that anybody in a relationship is saying. Speak up. Where did this come from that the other person should know? And that it's just
my therapist has called it the dance. I was just talking about this on a previous episode too. He was like, you do a lot of playing the dance, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
Just ask and speak. Everybody just ask and speak up. It's like, do you love them? Do they love you? Will they? And that's also too, I think people are afraid maybe to even find out what their spouse's reaction is going to be. Listen, I need to get up in the morning and work out. I need you to help with the kids so I can do this. It's like, are you afraid that spouse of yours is going to be like, this is BS. I'm not doing this. Find some other time. Like, I don't have to get up. I work late. I got to get up early. If they're not there for you, what does that say for the relationship? Are you afraid to confront that because that might lead to you then having to acknowledge that this is not a happy relationship and this is not the person you want to be with? And that's all that stuff is uncomfortable. And I think that's why people don't want to have the conversations with themselves, with their partner. And I was doing all this work and that's ultimately I feel like what ended up leading to me stepping into, I can't do this marriage anymore, which is the most difficult thing,
Yeah.
But when you figure out what you want with your life and you reframe your vision for your life and everything like that, you can do it, but it's uncomfortable. And I'm dealing with a lot of discomfort. But like everything, training, changing your lifestyle, changing your nutrition, you're going to have to deal with a lot of discomfort to get that ultimate freedom, joy, excitement, and everything back when you know it was the right decision. This wasn't like an escape out of thing. It was, it was for my son as much as me. And so those are tough conversations to have.
Yeah, they're super difficult. And we're going to wrap in just a few minutes here. I have a thought and then a question. The question is going to be, I'll give my thought in just a second. The question is going to be, does that play into the other side lifestyle, like being on the other side? So that's going to be the question. And the thought that I have is around this piece with discomfort. I for sure have been that person who was like, yeah, you got to get uncomfortable to make progress, or you got to get uncomfortable to do the thing. And what I was doing is I was getting uncomfortable. I wasn't staying uncomfortable. So it was like sticking my finger into the boiling water, like just dipping it in real quick. Ooh, that was uncomfortable. As opposed to, now you got to leave your hand in there. By the way, anybody who does that and then burns their hand, I am not responsible for your decisions.
It's an extreme analogy. Go with a cold plunge instead.
No, that's comfortable because you eventually Figure it
That's
out.
true.
But that was a big thing for me is I had gotten to a point where getting uncomfortable was a check the box sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it was about like being uncomfortable in the moment
Yeah.
and not then readdressing it. So it's like I would ask somebody the question and knowing that they would give me a response that I probably wasn't going to be comfortable with, but then not taking the time to then put into action the feedback that they gave me. So I may ask somebody, hey, I remember asking one of my clients actually, hey, is there anything I can do to be a better coach for you? And they hit me like hard with some feedback and
Are you gonna
expose
share?
something. It was, so long story short, they had shared with me that they didn't feel like I was listening to a particular thing that they were talking about was bothering them about something with their program. I won't get like super specific, but there was something that like bothered them. And I did like the opposite of what I currently do now, where I was just like, oh, you just got to stick with it. Like eventually, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, on one of the check-ins, she was like, I have been telling you about this for a while, and I actually don't feel like you're listening. And I was like, okay. She's like, I feel like you're just kind of hitting me with platitudes to get me to like whatever. And so I was like, all right, so cool. And I didn't do anything different. And she hit me with it again. And I was like, okay, but I'm not actually taking this feedback.
Yeah.
So took the feedback. We talked about it. I changed something up. And then the funny thing is, by adjusting what I was asking her to do and really going more with the route she wanted to go, she then was willing to slowly but surely in future conversations then open up a little bit more about why she had that reaction that she did the previous times. And then now she is a current client still, but now we're doing the thing. She's doing the thing that I wanted her to do all along, but my approach did not work at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like she stood up for herself. That's awesome.
Big time.
Big time. Totally were like, whatever, I'm great.
Well,
but then
here's the thing, Jim. I wasn't even saying it that way though.
No,
that's the thing. Like I'm
saying that you didn't change anything the first time, and then she brought it up. I'm saying, make it up like, whatever. I know what I'm doing. But then you dealt with that confrontation again, and you reflected on it, and now you're coaching differently.
Yeah, and awesome. In my head, I was like, oh, well, I was doing the whole like, yeah, well, I totally hear what you're saying. I want you to stick with it for a little bit longer. And she's like, if you hit me with another, like, stick with it for a little bit longer, because at that point I was heavy on my whole like program hopping kick.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, the problem is your program hopping. Like you need a different workout every day and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, or you could just actually be a coach and work with people. Like you figure
it's funny too. It's just like that. Everything you hear that for years, and then once you start seeing it and understanding it, you've done the work. Like how everything is a mirror. Everything. Every time you get triggered about something, if you can go, why did that trigger me? What does that expose about me? You genuinely do that. Then all of a sudden, less things trigger you, and life just gets easier. So for you, she's saying you're not listening, and your response was basically, no, you're not listening.
Basically, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like she's reflecting, she's a mirror to you of what you were doing. You're not listening. It's like, no, you're not listening. You need to stick with this program, blah, blah, blah. And it's so it's so interesting, all that. And it allows you to just like slow down and not react to everything when you really start going, like everything is a mirror. And years ago, I had a friend say, like something was pissing me off at this church I went to, this one guy, and he's like, you know when it's going to stop bothering you? And I go, when? He's like, when it stops bothering you. And I go, this is the worst advice ever. Years later.
So profound.
Years later, I understood it.
Yeah.
Because that thing that this person was doing was bothering me. And then when I kind of let it go, he didn't change. It just didn't cross my mind anymore, which goes back to the thing of you're going to be confronted with something and then you're going to get that final test. And then all of a sudden it doesn't show up in your life anymore because you're not noticing it. You're not paying attention to it. You've let go of other people's perspectives. You've let go of this quick transformation. You've let go of all these expectations or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's not there anymore because you're not resisting it. It's crazy.
Well, and that's tricky too. And we'll close out with the other side lifestyle question, because I do want to know if there's a parallel there. But that gets tricky too, because I think the days of the quick fix being the 21 day or 30 day or whatever, I was going to say 30 days or 4 weeks. Those are pretty much the same thing.
4 weeks too.
Bro, you can't. We will not have Aram out here catching strays. Not happening.
It is actually a great name. I didn't know I was like, this sounds like a thing.
Perfect.
But it does make sense now.
So so what I was saying is, I think we've got people conditioned now that, like, if they hear 21 day whatever, that they understand that they think that's quick fix. In fact, there's like the 21 day fix, right? And what I've started to see now is that the quick fix sometimes is the 6 to 8 week thing. Like, people are taking, and you're talking to a guy, me, who just finished like a 9-week program that I did with people. And I understand now that, like, sometimes these quick fixes, like 8 weeks, sometimes those are being packaged and it's still a quick fix because of the types of tactics that are utilized within those 8 weeks. So to Jim's point with what he was talking about, like some of the different phases that you go through in the Inside Out program and the work that you do, those are things that take time and they take revisiting.
Mm-hmm.
So this 9-week program that I did, it's been a very eye-opening experience for me, because it's the first time that I've done one that I ran, that I've been ahead of. And
is that with Anita?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reset program, and it's been a very eye-opening experience. Like, big time. I've learned, like, areas where, okay, felt like I was strong going into that, and I was strong going into that. And then areas where I felt like I was weak going into that, and wow, I'm weaker than I thought or
like physically. Or are you talking about mentally?
No, not physically. Like, just from a business standpoint. Yeah, gotcha. From a business standpoint. And it's really got me going, not back. I think back to the drawing board always sounds like you're starting over. It's given me more to bring to the next thing.
Yeah.
So understanding that. So when I hear you talk about some of the different things that you've worked through, like, one of the main things that sticks out is you're not going through these things and then it's just like, okay, here's the thing, go do that. And then, like, good luck. It's like, those are things that you're clearly revisiting, and they all kind of link together and they go in phases. So I really like that. Okay. So let's close out with this, because I do want to make sure that I at least get the backstory on this. So Other Side Lifestyle, where did that come from? Does that have to do with somewhat of the journey that you either are on or had been on, or where did that come from?
I guess years
it's really
ago.
Profound from my point of view.
Yeah, years ago. And I love how just everything connects even before you realize that it connects. You're like, just one thing happens and it rolls into this and it rolls into this and it rolls into this. And you're like, oh my God, everything led to where you are now. Yeah. Whether that's for the good or for the bad. So it is interesting, because I forgot all about that. Years ago, my Facebook group, I just changed the name to Other Side Lifestyle, because I was starting to talk a little bit more about other things. What was
it before?
I don't know. Jimmy Nutrition. I have no idea. I don't even
Jimmy
remember.
MF and Nutrition.
Yeah, Jimmy. It was just a picture of me.
It probably was.
Yeah, no. I never had pictures of me up there, but I forget if it was just like like Jimmy Nutrition. I can't remember the name of what it was, but I changed it to Other Side Lifestyle. And there's a whole other way that you could be living life. It was still more about perspective, and it wasn't like anything deep spiritual, emotional, or anything like that. But there's a whole other side to life. There's a whole other way you could be living. So that was really all it was. And then when we decided to start the podcast, and I think I might have bought the website othersidelifestyle.com.
Okay.
Because I was maybe thinking about the shirts or something. I forget. So when we started the podcast, I was like, I got a website, othersidelifestyle.com. Do you want to just call it that? There's like a whole other side to life, a whole other side to living, or whatever. And he's like, sure. So that was it. Yeah. So it wasn't like the other side. My mother, of course, she likes to give it other side. That's death. That's like the other side. I'm like, okay, this isn't referring to death, but that's fine. At the same time, it is referring to death.
The death of your former self.
It's the death of, it's the death of your ego. Once you die to self and die to ego, then it's like you can truly actually live. You're not, because ego wants to keep you safe. Everybody thinks ego is like cocky. Mm-hmm. Ego just wants to protect you. The best way to protect you is to stay exactly where you are. All the people are like, I knew I'd fail on that diet. That was your ego. You're never, just stop. Don't bother. Don't bother. That's your ego, because ego wants to protect you. So it's interesting. When you start diving into like the psychological stuff and you hear these phrases, it changes things. Your ego wants to, I'm not egotistical. I'm not saying that, but your ego is stopping you from doing everything. It wants you to stay exactly where you are. It wants to keep you safe. It wants to prove you right.
Ooh, yeah. Man, which is totally relatable with that example that I was talking about and that feedback from that client. That was definitely my ego where I was like, no, I'm not communicating with you that way. What do you mean? Yeah, it's just, I would be very interested if you were to ask your clients throughout the years, like just to reflect back and what does other side lifestyle mean to you? Like, how do you interpret that? Because it's something that for me, just with being connected to your content and then you personally and things like that, like the way that I take that mantra is reaching the other side of this journey or this obstacle, whatever it may be. Like, like the Ryan Holiday, like the obstacle is the way, the only way out is through. That sort of a thing. It's like, well, I'm just trying to get on the other side of this. And it doesn't mean that like all of a sudden you're done. It's almost like you have, I literally think about like when we were driving one time and we were on the highway coming back from like a baseball tournament in Wisconsin, and we're driving back to Illinois where we live. And this is the worst weather I've ever driven in my entire life. And I grew up in upstate New York for a while. So I've driven on like literally sheets of ice. I've never driven through anything like this. I might've been going 12 miles an hour on the highway. And I've got my father-in-law, my wife, and both kids in the car. And
awesome.
I am not sure if I can even see 4 feet in front of me. I mean, it's awful. And I just remember, like, what it reminds me of is the visual and the feeling I had at that time. Because my father-in-law was, at the time, he was in construction, highway paving and things like that. So he's got this like almost like Rain Man ability.
I was just going to say autistic.
He's not autistic.
No. You said he almost has like this, and I was going to say autistic thing, and then you said Rain Man, and I'm like, same thing.
He has this insane ability to be able, like he was able to look up like the weather radar and then tell me like, hey, we're at exit number, 10 whatever. It's like, by the time you get to exit 122, this thing should be clear. He's like, you've just got to get to that particular exit. And it just reminds me of like this thought process of like, okay, I just got to get on the other side of this, but I can't rush because I'm like, I've got the whole family in the car and I'm trying to remain calm, but I literally cannot see.
Yeah.
It was wild. So I think about the other side.
Yeah. It's interesting that you just said that. Yeah. And I think there is like this possible other side that there's always going to be another thing. But for me, I feel like I'm experiencing that other side where it's like, okay, totally fresh perspective on things. And I've always had a good way to shift perspective, but it's just totally different now. This level of like self-awareness, accountability, no blame, excuses, everything like that. Letting go of other people's perceptions. Hey, you show me 1,000 people, I'm going to show you 1,000 different perceptions of me, which just proves that other people's perceptions mean nothing. Like, to be able to let go of that stuff is freeing. So I know that there'll still be things, but it's interesting what you just said about you can't rush it because you got to keep everybody safe, all of that. When this past year, I feel like I've been in this, you just want to get to the other side of it. I've totally sat in and accepted that this is what I have to go through to become who I'm going to become on the other side.
Yeah.
So there is no rushing it. There is no like, just put the time, it's being patient and going, what I do not want to be going through right now is exactly what I need to go through to become the person I'm going to become at the end of this. And I think when you can start to take that perspective, you can enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You're not going to, I've got to go to the gym at 4:30 a.m. Mickey Mouse. That just sounds like Mickey Mouse. But you can at least have peace in it to some level versus it just being torture. And this past year was the first time I realized that. And like, I'm so excited for stuff that I don't even know what it's going to be, but I'm excited for what is in my future. And you have like ideas or little things. I'm so excited for it, but I have to continue to go through this to really like learn the lessons that I need to learn to become that version. If you rush it, then you're just You're bypassing. You take a certification class in nutrition, and now you're an expert. Let me explain to everybody how it works. It's like, no, you're bypassing the work that had to be done.
Oh, yeah.
Spiritual bypassing. They hear the lingo and they start using it before actually doing the work, all that kind of stuff. So it's,
man.
Yeah, it's
all right.
That's a sound clip. Hit mark clip for that one.
Oh, Jim, you're far more organized on Riverside than I will ever be.
Dude, you have to use the mark clip.
I will look into that. Here.
Like right now, just hit mark clip.
I just did.
Yeah. And then it'll just give you like a 30-second thing, 30 seconds like before and 30 seconds after when you hit mark clip. So if you have a guest, and you're like, oh, I like what they just said, I might want to make a clip of that. You hit mark clip, it makes the clip, and then you can edit it from there.
Oh, that's wild. So this whole time, what I generally do is I grab this pen that I have and I'll write down, oh, that was around 20 minutes. Let me go back to that.
Mark clip.
Here's what's unfortunate, and we really are closing out. Here's what's unfortunate is that it's right next to the stop button on the platform.
Don't mess up.
Somebody should. Yeah, I will submit some feedback about like, hey, it'd be cool to be able to reorganize the buttons. Actually, I think it would be. I do.
That's a great point.
Seriously, like why do you want to have that button right next? Mark clip should be like
off to the side by itself,
right?
Or end should be way off over here, like out of the way.
It's really inconsiderate for people like me who often press the wrong button. Yeah. Like, I'm kind of offended. So, all right, man, thank you for taking the time to have this conversation.
No, it's my
pleasure. Needed that conversation, so I appreciate that.
Awesome. No, I'm always excited to see you and talk to you, man.
Yeah. Are you? You're going to be in Vegas, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. As of right now, I intend to be there. I intend
this year to get a cookie with you.
Sweet. Insomnia it is. Well, actually, I think Aram was telling me about some other place that I need to go. Okay. Well, he was talking about ube cookies. That's what it was. Okay. These Japanese cookies or something like that. I don't know.
Now you're not within walking distance to Insomnia unless there's another one.
What do you mean? I'm not. If it's
Caesars.
Within a half hour, that's walking distance.
Maybe an Uber from Caesars to Insomnia by Virgin. I'm not walking a mile and a half.
Okay. This is so going to be the toxic like David Goggins moment. So when we were in Vegas, we stayed at the Virgin, right?
Yeah. Virgin.
So the gym that I found, shout out the Strip Barbell. Love that place. I walk there every morning. I'm pretty sure it was like 2 to 3 miles. I don't know.
Good for you.
Well, it's always interesting going down to the lobby of the Virgin Hotel to leave and go walk, like starting about 4:30 in the morning in Vegas, because the stream of people coming in and
so people are coming in from being out all night
as I'm walking a couple miles to a gym. Yeah.
Some people are leaving at that time because they just got done. Some people are coming into the place because they just got done from the Strip.
It's what, the dichotomy there, like the difference there was just wild to me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I intend to be there. I've got a couple other details to kind of sort out, but I do intend to be there, and that'll be a fantastic time.
I'm probably gonna get down there Friday night and do some adventuring that we can go hiking, stuff like that. Red Rocks and different things.
Okay.
Do something.
All right. Well, yeah. If I'm there, then I'll see you there. Fantastic. Right. And probably not doing TSA pre-check again, and most likely ordering my steak medium well, per the usual. So, with that, Jimmy's horrified.
One day you'll get to the other side of it.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we're going to end on that note. I will link Jimmy's Instagram, and then I'm also going to link his website because I bought one t-shirt.
I think you got the Live Life Different.
Live Life Different t-shirt. I like the messaging of the shirts, and also they're great quality. So shout out that. So I'll have a link to that too, just because I think that the apparel stuff is pretty cool too. So anything else you want to leave the people with before we end this episode?
No,
make sure I didn't miss out.
If any of the stuff we talked about sounds like something you're interested in, I think if there's a link in my bio for info for the next round. I don't know exactly when the next date is that I'm going to do the next round of that Inside Out program. Okay. And I still do nutrition coaching as well. Yeah. But Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. No other announcements. And I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, folks. If you've stuck around this long, you're a real one. And I appreciate you. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Help Me Understand podcast. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.